A poor mother tries to buy Christmas dinner with only $20, but a young billionaire sees everything and intervenes in an incredible way. Snow fell slowly over the city. White flakes danced in the crisp air before landing on the sidewalks. The streets were filled with people. Families hurried past, carrying colorful bags. Children ran asking for chocolates. Laughter filled the cold air. Christmas lights twinkled in every shop window. Christmas songs played in the stores. It was Christmas Eve, and the whole world seemed to glow. Less so for Sarah. She stopped at the market entrance and took a deep breath. The freezing air burned her lungs. She reached into her coat pocket with her right hand and felt the crumpled paper. $20. It was everything. The bill was folded several times, carefully saved since the beginning of the week. She held it between her fingers, squeezing gently, as if this could make the money multiply. "Mommy, it's really cold." Sarah looked down. Emily was beside her, holding her left hand tightly. The girl was 5 years old, blonde hair falling to her shoulders, straight and bright even under the snow, clear eyes, blue as a summer sky, looking up with that pure confidence only children possess. The coat Emily wore was old, faded red inherited from a neighbor, a little too big. The sleeves covered half of her small hands. "I know, my love. Let's go inside right away." Sarah squeezed her hand and pushed open the market door. The warmth hit their faces like a hug. Christmas music played over the speakers, an instrumental version of Jingle Bells. The smell of fresh bread came from the bakery section in the back. People pushed huge carts, filled to the brim. Hams, wines, fruits, imported desserts, chocolates in luxury boxes. Everything Sarah could not afford. She grabbed a small handbasket. Only the basket. A cart was for those who had more than $20. Emily walked beside her, looking at everything with curiosity. Her eyes wandered over the colorful shelves, the toys piled up near the checkout, the candies wrapped in shiny paper. But she didn't ask for anything. She had already learned. At 5 years old, Emily already understood when her mother could not. Sarah walked through the aisles with quick steps, calculating every cent mentally. Rice. The smallest bag. Cheap brand. $2.50. Plain pasta, no sauce. $1.80. Milk. $3. Sliced bread, the cheapest one. $2.20. Eggs. $1.90. Every item was a decision. Every price, a burden. "Mommy, can I get this?" Emily asked, pointing to a package of star-shaped decorated cookies. Sarah looked at the price, $4.50. "So not today, sweetheart, but we'll buy them later, okay?" Emily lowered her hand. "Okay." She didn't insist. She didn't complain. She just kept walking. Sarah felt a tightness in her chest. She wanted to give her daughter everything. She wanted to fill the cart with treats, toys, gifts, but she couldn't. And that hurt more than any cold. They continued to the meat and poultry section. The movement there was intense. Dozens of people choosing cuts, comparing sizes, discussing prices. The cold lights of the refrigerators illuminated perfectly organized trays, huge turkeys, packaged with red and gold ribbons, whole hams glistening, roasted chickens ready to take home. Emily stopped. Her little hands rested on the metal bar of the refrigerator case. She just stood there looking through the glass, fascinated. The turkeys were enormous, golden brown, perfect. "Mommy!" Sarah was picking up a small package of chicken when she heard her daughter's voice. "Yes, my love." Emily pointed to the turkeys with her small finger. Her voice was tiny, almost a whisper. "Aren't we going to have a Christmas turkey?" The question was not a request. It wasn't a demand. It was just curiosity, innocent hope. Sarah put the chicken package back. She took a deep breath. She walked over to Emily and slowly bent down, meeting her height. She held the girl's face with both hands. Softly, with all the affection in the world. "This year, we don't have enough money for that, my love." Emily looked down. Her lips trembled slightly. "But I promise," Sarah continued, forcing a soft smile, "that we'll make the best we can. It will be a good Christmas anyway, I promise. Okay?" Emily looked up again. She nodded slowly. "Okay, Mommy." She didn't cry. She didn't make a scene. She just accepted it, the way poor children learn to accept too early. Sarah kissed her forehead and stayed there for another second, trying not to cry right there, in the middle of the market, in front of everyone. She stood up and took her daughter's hand again. What Sarah didn't realize was that someone was watching. A few feet away, standing near the wine shelves, Ethan had seen everything. He was 32 years old, dark-haired, slightly messy dark hair, unshaven beard. He wore a dark grey sweater, jeans, clean sneakers, simple clothes, but good quality. Nothing about him screamed wealth. That was exactly what he wanted. Ethan came to the market every Christmas Eve, always at the same time, always alone. He picked up the same things, a bottle of wine, a small piece of steak, bread, enough for one person. But this year, something made him stop. He was reaching for the wine when he heard the child's voice. He turned his head. He saw the blonde woman crouched down in front of the little girl. He saw the old coat. He saw the almost empty basket. And he heard, even unintentionally, the conversation about the turkey. Something inside him stirred. Ethan's gaze softened. His breathing changed. He stood there, watching the scene, as if something important was happening and he couldn't look away. There was something about that mother and daughter that touched a forgotten place inside him. The woman's silent strength, the child's innocence, the way they held on to each other. Ethan knew loneliness. He lived with it every day, and somehow he recognized the same loneliness in them. He put the wine bottle back on the shelf and began to follow the two from a distance, maintaining a respectful space. Sarah went through the checkout with the basket. Rice, pasta, milk, bread, eggs, small chicken. The cashier scanned the products one by one. The sound of the beep echoed. $19.40. Sarah took the $20 bill from her pocket. The cashier gave her 60 cents back. She carefully put the coins away. She picked up the paper bag and left with Emily through the side door. The snow was still falling. The cold hit their faces hard. "Let's hurry, my love." Emily nodded, tucking her hands into her pockets. They had only taken a few steps when a voice came from behind. "Excuse me." Sarah stopped immediately and turned. A man was approaching. Tall, dark-haired, hands in his pockets. He stopped at a respectful distance. Sorry to interrupt," he repeated with a small, gentle smile. Sarah tensed immediately. She pulled Emily closer instinctively. "Yes," she replied cautiously. Ethan noticed the fear in her eyes. He took a step back. "I didn't mean to scare you. It's just, I saw you in the market." Sarah didn't relax. And today is Christmas." He hesitated. "I was going to have dinner alone, and I thought, would you accept having dinner with me?" The silence was long and heavy. Sarah blinked, confused. "I beg your pardon." "I live close by. I have plenty of food. And honestly," he gave a tired smile, "I didn't want to spend the night alone." Sarah studied his face. She searched for signs of lying, of danger, but she only saw weariness and perhaps loneliness. "I don't know. We don't even know you." "I know," Ethan said calmly, "and I understand if you say no, but I promise it's just dinner. Nothing strange, just company." He took his wallet out of his pocket and showed his ID, full name, address, photo. "You can write everything down. You can look me up later. You can call the police if anything seems wrong. I just want to do one good thing today." Sarah looked at the ID, then at him, then at Emily. The girl was looking at Ethan with curiosity. No fear, just interest. "Mommy." Emily tugged at her coat sleeve. Sarah bit her lip. She thought of the $20. She thought of the miserable dinner she would be able to make. She thought about how Emily deserved more. "All right," she finally said, "but we need to leave before 9. Ethan smiled, a genuine smile this time. "It's a deal." They walked together through the snow-covered streets. Emily walked in the middle, holding both their hands. She talked non-stop. "I'm 5 years old. I'm starting real school next year. I know how to draw really well. Mommy says my drawings are beautiful. Do you like to draw?" Ethan listened attentively to everything. I don't draw very well, but I love to look at drawings. Then I'm going to make a drawing for you, Emily said, excited. Sarah watched in silence, still alert, but slowly the tension decreased. After 10 minutes, they stopped in front of a house. Emily let out a soft wow. The house was beautiful. 2 stories, wide windows with white frames, a snow-covered lawn. Warm lights illuminated the porch. A Christmas wreath hung on the door, elegant, welcoming. "You live here?" Emily asked, impressed. "I do," Ethan replied, pulling out his key. He opened the door. The warmth came immediately. The smell of cinnamon and wood. A fireplace crackling in the corner of the living room. Large light leather sofas, soft rugs. A Christmas tree decorated with gold balls and twinkling white lights. Emily walked in slowly, enchanted. Her eyes sparkled as she looked at everything. The house was large, elegant, warm. She spun around, trying to see everything at once. "It's so beautiful," she whispered. Then she looked at Ethan with that childish frankness and asked, "Do you live here all alone?" Ethan hung his coat on the rack and turned to her. "Yes, just me." Emily tilted her head, thoughtful. Then she said with pure sincerity, "It must be sad to be alone." The phrase hit Ethan like a punch to the chest. He stood there, without an immediate answer. He took a deep breath. Something inside him tightened. "Sometimes it is," he admitted softly, with an honesty that surprised even himself. Sarah saw something in his eyes at that moment. She recognized it. It was the same loneliness she felt every day. "I'll prepare dinner," Ethan said, changing the subject quickly. "Make yourselves at home." He went to the kitchen. Sarah followed him, leaving Emily to explore the living room with her eyes. Ethan started taking things out of the refrigerator. Roast turkey, small but nice, creamy mashed potatoes, colorful vegetables. Homemade bread, gravy. "You made all this?" Sarah asked. "I did. I like to cook." He worked in silence for a few minutes, carefully warming everything up. Sarah helped set the table. White plates, simple cutlery, green cloth napkins, crystal glasses. Ethan lit 2 candles in the center. "Ready?" he said. "Shower Emily. Time for dinner." The girl came running and stopped when she saw the table. Her eyes widened. "Is this for us?" "It is," Ethan said, gently pulling out a chair for her. "Sit here." Emily sat down, barely able to believe it. Sarah sat next to her, still processing everything. Ethan served Emily's plate first. He insisted on it. He took a generous slice of turkey, carefully cut it into small pieces, added mashed potatoes, carrots, and broccoli. He placed it in front of her with a smile. "Enjoy your meal, Emily." The girl took the fork with both hands and tasted it. She closed her eyes in pure pleasure. "It's so delicious." Ethan smiled, a genuine smile that lit up his face. He served Sarah next. Then he served himself. During dinner, something magical happened. The conversation flowed. Emily told stories about school, about the drawings she made, about the orange cat that appeared at their window. Ethan listened to everything with genuine attention. He asked questions. He laughed at her childish jokes. And then Sarah realized something. Emily was laughing. Truly laughing. For the first time in days, maybe weeks, her daughter was laughing that light, free, happy laugh. Sarah watched everything with silent gratitude. She didn't say anything. She just watched Ethan serve more mashed potatoes for Emily, wipe her mouth with the napkin, tell a funny story about when he burned the first turkey he tried to make. Micro gestures. Small, but full of affection. After dinner, Ethan served Emily hot chocolate. She drank it sitting on the sofa, watching the flames in the fireplace. Sarah helped wash the dishes. They worked side by side in comfortable silence. "Thank you," she said suddenly, her voice choked. Ethan looked at her. "For all of this, you didn't have to." "I know." He dried his hands. "But I wanted to." When it was time to leave, Emily was sleepy. Ethan helped her put on her coat, buttoning it carefully. At the door, Emily turned around and did something no one expected. She hugged Ethan. It was a tight, sincere hug, the kind children give when they are truly happy. She buried her face in his sweater and whispered, That was the best Christmas ever. Ethan stood completely still, surprised. For a second, he didn't know what to do. Then, slowly, he hugged her back. Something inside him stirred, something that had been dormant, buried, forgotten for years. He closed his eyes and felt something warm rise in his throat. Sarah took her daughter's hand when Emily finally let go. "Thank you, from the bottom of my heart." "Come back any time," Ethan said, and for the first time in a long time, he really meant it. He stood at the door, watching the two walk away in the snow. Emily waved from afar. Ethan waved back, standing there until they disappeared around the corner. He closed the door slowly and leaned against it. He looked at the living room, the table still set, the used plates, the sound of the fireplace crackling, and he realized that something had changed. Ethan was touched in a way he hadn't been for years. For the first time in a long time, the house didn't feel empty, and he didn't feel so alone. 3 days after Christmas, Sarah was working at the coffee shop. It was a small, cozy place on the Main Street corner. Exposed brick walls, worn wooden tables, a constant smell of fresh coffee. Business was good, people coming and going all day, ordering lattes, cappuccinos, quick sandwiches. Sarah was behind the counter, cleaning the espresso machine. She wore a brown apron over a simple blouse, her blonde hair tied back in a ponytail. She had started working there 6 months ago. The salary was low, but at least it was steady, and the owner let Emily stay in a little corner after school. Emily was sitting at a small table near the window, drawing. Crayons were scattered around her, her tongue sticking out as she concentrated on the paper. She was drawing a large house with a Christmas tree, Ethan's house. She had talked about him every day since Christmas. The kind man, as she called him. She asked when they would see him again. Sarah didn't have an answer. The bell above the door rang. Sarah didn't even look up. She just said automatically, "Good afternoon, welcome." But Emily looked and she froze. Then she dropped her crayon and jumped out of the chair. "It's you!" Sarah quickly turned her head. She saw Emily running, and then she saw who was at the door. Ethan. He wore a black coat, a grey scarf, hands in his pockets. He seemed surprised by Emily's reaction, but he smiled. The girl reached him and stopped, breathless, her eyes shining. "I knew you would come back," she said, practically jumping. Ethan knelt down to her height. "Hi, Emily, how are you?" "Good, I drew you. Want to see?" She grabbed his hand and pulled him toward the small table. Ethan let himself be dragged, laughing softly. Sarah stood still behind the counter, watching. She didn't know what to think. Part of her was happy, part of her was nervous. Ethan sat in the small chair, too big for her, but he sat anyway. Emily showed him the drawing. "Look, that's your house, and that Christmas tree, and this is you." Ethan took the paper carefully, as if it was something precious. "It's beautiful, Emily, truly beautiful. You can keep it if you want. Seriously? Seriously, I'll make another one." Ethan folded the paper carefully and put it in the inner pocket of his coat. "I will treasure it." Emily grinned from ear to ear. Sarah approached, wiping her hands on her apron. "Hi," she said, a little awkwardly. Ethan stood up. "Hi. Sorry to drop by like this. I was passing by and saw the coffee shop. I didn't know you worked here." Sarah wasn't sure she believed that, but she didn't say anything. "It's fine. Do you want to order something?" "A coffee, please, black." She went back to the counter. She prepared the coffee while Emily bombarded Ethan with questions. "Do you like to draw?" "I can teach you. Do you have any pets?" "I wish I had a dog, but our apartment is small." "Do you like stories?" "I know a really funny story." Ethan answered everything patiently. Sarah noticed this as she worked. He wasn't just being polite. He was genuinely interested. She brought him the coffee. "How much is it?" Ethan asked. $2.50. He handed her a $5 bill. "Lisa, keep the change." "You don't need to." "I insist." Sarah accepted, embarrassed. Ethan stayed there for almost an hour. He talked to Emily about drawings. She showed him all the ones she had made that week. He complimented every single one. He told bad jokes that made Emily laugh until she was breathless. He listened to nonsensical children's stories about princesses and dragons. Sarah watched from a distance while serving other customers. She saw how Ethan leaned forward when Emily spoke, how he genuinely smiled, how his eyes sparkled, and she saw how happy Emily was, happier than she had been in a long time. When Ethan finally got up to leave, Emily pouted. "Are you coming back?" Ethan glanced at Sarah quickly. Then he looked back at Emily. "Can I?" Emily nodded forcefully. "Then I'll come back," he promised. And he did come back. The next day, at the same time, 3:30 in the afternoon, Emily was drawing again when he walked in. She screamed with joy and ran to hug him. Sarah was preparing a cappuccino. She smiled unintentionally. Ethan ordered the same coffee. He sat with Emily. They talked again. On the third day, Emily was already waiting by the window. When she saw Ethan turning the corner, she banged on the glass and waved frantically. He waved back. He walked in. Same routine. Black coffee, small chair, long conversations. It became a habit. Every day at 3:30 in the afternoon, Ethan appeared. He ordered coffee. He sat with Emily. He stayed for an hour, sometimes more. They drew together. Emily taught, and Ethan tried to imitate, making crooked drawings that she found hilarious. They told jokes, most of them silly, but they laughed anyway. They made up stories about fairies, superheroes, astronauts. Emily started bringing things to show him: a favorite toy, a book from school, a colorful pebble she had found on the street. Ethan treated everything as important. Sarah watched from a distance. She saw the bond forming. Emily was becoming attached, quickly, immediately, and that scared her. One afternoon, while Ethan was in the restroom, Sarah approached Emily. "My love, you really like Ethan, don't you?" Emily nodded, smiling. "He's my friend." "I know, but don't be sad if one day he stops coming, okay? People get busy sometimes." Emily frowned. "He won't stop, he promised." Sarah didn't answer. She just kissed her daughter's head. When Ethan returned, Sarah pulled him aside. "Can I talk to you for a second?" "Of course." They went to the corner of the counter. Sarah kept her voice low. "Look, I appreciate you coming here, really. Emily loves it. But—" She hesitated. "But—" Ethan gently encouraged. "But she's getting attached. Too quickly. And I'm afraid that if you suddenly disappear, it will hurt her." Ethan held her gaze. There was seriousness there. "I won't disappear. You don't know that. Life happens. People get busy. They forget." "I won't forget," he said firmly. "I promise." Sarah wanted to believe him, but she was afraid. She was always afraid. "Just, please be careful with her heart." "I will be." "I promise I will be." Sarah nodded slowly, but the fear didn't go away. She kept watching in the following days. She saw how Emily lit up when Ethan arrived, how she laughed more, how she talked about him all the time at home. Ethan said this. Ethan did that. It was beautiful, but it was scary. Sarah knew abandonment. She knew disappointment. She knew broken promises, and she was terrified of seeing Emily go through the same thing. So she watched, carefully, fearfully, but also, little by little, with a hint of hope, because Ethan kept coming back, every day, same time, same coffee, same gentle smile, and maybe, just maybe, he was different. Maybe he really would stay. Sarah wasn't sure yet, but she was starting to want to believe. Meanwhile, Emily finished another drawing, a girl smiling, with a huge sun in the sky and colorful flowers all around. She showed it to Ethan. "Look, that's me happy." Ethan took the drawing and looked at it closely. "Are you happy?" he asked gently. Emily nodded hard. "I am now." And that was enough. Ethan kept that drawing too, very carefully. Sarah turned the key in the lock and pushed the door open. The apartment was cold. It had been cold for the past few days. Emily ran inside, taking off her faded red coat and throwing it on the living room chair. Sarah locked the door behind them and sighed. It was a small apartment, very small. Living room and kitchen together in a cramped space. One tiny bedroom that they shared, a bathroom with a broken shower stall. The walls were peeling. Damp stains climbed up the corners, forming strange patterns. The white paint, which was once white, was now more grey than anything else. Pieces of plaster fell sometimes. Sarah swept them up, but more always appeared. The windows had cracks. She tried to cover them with old cloth, but the cold got in anyway. It came through the cracked living room pane, through the edges of the bedroom window, through the gap under the door. The wind whistled softly during the night. The couch was old, dark brown, worn fabric on the arms, springs showing in some places. Sarah had thrown a blanket over it to disguise it. The coffee table was cheap, scratched wood, with one leg shorter than the others. She propped a piece of cardboard underneath to balance it. The small TV in the corner barely worked. The picture was snowy, but Emily liked to watch cartoons anyway. Sarah dropped her bag on the couch and went straight to the kitchen. She opened the cabinet of rice. The bag was half full. Maybe it would last 3 more days if she skimped. Pasta, not much. A handful, at most. She shook the bag, almost nothing. She opened the refrigerator. 2 eggs, almost empty milk, barely a glass left. A small piece of cheese wrapped in plastic wrap, margarine running out. That was it. Sarah closed the refrigerator and leaned her forehead against the cold metal. She took a deep breath. She tried not to think, tried not to feel the tightness in her chest. "Mommy!" She turned. Emily was standing at the kitchen entrance, looking at her with those huge blue eyes. "Yes, my love. I'm hungry." Sarah forced a smile. "So I'm going to make dinner now, okay?" She took the rice, measured out 1 cup, less than she should have, put it on to cook, broke 1 egg into the frying pan. Only 1. They would share. Emily sat at the small kitchen table and picked up her crayon. She started drawing on a crumpled piece of paper. Sarah mechanically stirred the rice. She looked at the living room table. The bills were there, piled up, some still in their envelopes, others open with red numbers marked. Water, 2 months overdue. Electricity, 1 month overdue. Cut-off notice. Gas, overdue. Condo fees, 3 months overdue. Collection letter. Sarah knew the amounts by heart. She had added them so many times that the numbers were etched in her mind. 120, 95, 60, 240, $515 in total. She didn't have it, not even close. The coffee shop salary was $300 a week, $1,200 a month. It seemed like a lot until she started subtracting. Rent, $700, $500 left. Food, about $200, if she skimped a lot. $300 left. Medicine for Emily when she was sick. Clothes when she grew, shoes when they wore out. School supplies. Transportation. It never added up. Never. Sarah turned off the stove. She served the rice onto 2 plates. She cut the egg in half, put half on each plate. "There you go, my love." Emily put down the pencil and looked at her plate. She didn't complain. She never complained. They ate in silence. Sarah could barely swallow. The food went down dry, but she ate. She needed to eat. She needed energy to work tomorrow. After dinner, she washed the dishes. She put the remaining rice in the refrigerator, covered it with plastic wrap. Emily went to the couch and turned on the TV. A cartoon started. The picture flickered, but she watched anyway. Sarah grabbed the bills from the table. She sat next to her daughter. She picked up a piece of paper and a pen. She started calculating again, added, subtracted, tried to find a way, any way. Maybe if she asked for an advance at the coffee shop. No, she had already asked last month. Maybe if she took extra hours. The owner didn't have extra hours to give. Maybe if she cut back on food even more. But Emily was growing. She needed to eat. The numbers didn't add up. No matter how hard she tried, they didn't add up. Sarah crossed out the paper hard, then crumpled it and threw it on the floor. She leaned her head on the couch. She closed her eyes. She felt the tears wanting to come out, but she held them back. "Mommy." She opened her eyes. Emily was looking at her. The cartoon was still playing on TV, but she wasn't paying attention. "Yes, my love." Emily tilted her head. Her eyes were worried. "Are you sad?" Sarah swallowed hard. She forced a smile that didn't convince even herself. "No, my love. Just a little tired. Tired from work." Yes, from work. Emily was quiet for a second. Then she got up and climbed onto the couch. She burrowed into Sarah's lap. She put her head on her chest. Then rest, Mommy. Sarah hugged her daughter, squeezed her tight. She felt the small, warm body against hers. The apartment was cold. The couch was cold. The bills were on the table. The food was running out. The month was far from over. But in that moment, with Emily in her arms, Sarah felt a little warmth. It didn't solve anything. It didn't pay the bills. It didn't fill the refrigerator. But it was something. They stayed there, hugging in silence. The cartoon continued on TV. The picture flickered. The wind whistled through the cracks. Sarah closed her eyes again. She kissed her daughter's head. I love you, my love. I love you too, Mommy. The apartment remained cold. The bills remained on the table. The food remained running out. But they had each other. And that night, it was enough to keep going. Sarah held Emily until she fell asleep in her lap. Then she carried her to the bedroom, laid her on the bed, covered her with the thin blanket. She went back to the living room, looked at the bills again. Tomorrow she would try again. Tomorrow she would find a way. She always found one. Somehow, she had to find one. Sarah turned off the light. She lay down next to Emily. The mattress sagged in the middle. The springs creaked, but it was warm because they were together. And for now, that was all they had. The weeks passed. January turned into February, and Ethan didn't miss a single day, 3:30 in the afternoon, every day. Like clockwork. At first, Sarah still found it strange. She remained alert. She watched every gesture, every word, every look. She searched for signs of something wrong, some hidden intention, some ulterior motive. But she found none. Ethan was genuine, simply genuine. His visits became part of the coffee shop routine. The other customers already knew him. Some greeted him when he walked in. The owner of the coffee shop, Martha, a 60-year-old woman with grey hair and reading glasses hanging around her neck, smiled every time she saw him. "Here comes your friend, Emily," she would say in that affectionate grandmotherly tone, and the girl would drop everything and run to the window. "He's coming! He's coming!" Emily would shout, waving frantically through the glass. And Ethan always waved back, always. It was at the coffee shop that the little traditions began, small rituals that formed naturally, without planning, just happening. The first was the hot chocolate. It happened on a particularly cold afternoon in mid-January. The snow was falling heavily outside. Ethan walked in stamping his feet, shaking snow from his black coat. Emily was at her usual small table, shivering a little even with her red coat on. "It's really cold today," Ethan commented, sitting next to her and rubbing his own hands. "Very," Emily agreed, blowing on her icy little hands. "My fingers are numb." Ethan looked at Sarah at the counter. "Do you have hot chocolate?" "I do, yes. 2, please. Very hot." Sarah prepared them carefully. She warmed the milk, mixed in the chocolate powder, stirred until creamy. She topped them with whipped cream, something she didn't usually do because it was more expensive. But that day she did. She sprinkled cinnamon too. She brought the cups to the table. Ethan gently pushed one toward Emily. "For you, to warm up." Her eyes sparkled like stars. "For me? For you." Emily took the cup with both small hands. She blew on it carefully. She took a tiny sip. Her eyes closed in pure delight. "It's delicious. It's warm and tasty." Ethan drank from his own. He smiled. That small, genuine smile that was appearing more and more often. "It is indeed." From that day on, whenever it was cold, he would order 2 hot chocolates, one for him, one for Emily. They would share that moment, sipping slowly, talking about the day, laughing at silly things. It became a tradition, their tradition. The second tradition was drawing together. Emily always drew. It was what she liked to do most. She had an old box of crayons with half the colors broken. She used paper that Sarah took from the coffee shop, napkins, notebook pages, the backs of old receipts. But drawing alone was one thing, drawing with someone else was completely different. "You draw really badly," Emily said one afternoon, laughing at the crooked drawing Ethan had made of a dog. It looked more like a potato with legs. "I warned you I wasn't good at it," he replied. laughing too. His laugh was low, genuine. "Let me teach you, come on." She took his large hand with her two small ones and guided the pencil, slowly, showing him how to make the right lines, how to draw the ears, how to make the tail. "See? It looks better this way. You have to go slowly." Ethan tried again, concentrated, his tongue sticking out like Emily's. It was a little less bad. Still not great, but you could tell it was a dog. "It's better," Emily cheered, clapping her hands. "You're learning. Thanks to you, you're a great teacher." Emily grinned from ear to ear, proud. They started drawing together every day. Emily taught with infinite patience. Ethan tried with genuine effort. Sometimes it worked, sometimes it didn't. But they laughed anyway, they laughed a lot. Sarah watched from afar while cleaning tables or making coffee. She saw how Ethan had infinite patience, how he complimented every one of Emily's attempts, even the bad ones, how he made her feel special, smart, important, and that touched Sarah profoundly. The third tradition was the stories about snow. It happened one afternoon when Emily was bored. She had already made 3 drawings. She had already drunk hot chocolate. She had already colored. She didn't know what else to do. "Ethan, do you know how to tell stories?" she asked, swinging her little legs under the chair. "It depends. What kind of story do you want?" Emily looked out the window. It was snowing again. Large, slow flakes falling from the grey sky. About snow. Ethan thought for a moment. Then he began inventing on the spot. Once upon a time there was a girl named Luna who found out she could talk to snowflakes. Emily leaned forward immediately, enchanted, her eyes wide. Ethan made it up as he spoke. He talked about Luna and her friendship with a magical snowflake named Crystal, about how they flew together through the frozen sky, about the adventures they had in the clouds, about the hidden ice kingdom in the mountains. His voice was calm, engaging. He did different voices for the characters. He made sound effects. He gestured. When he finished, Emily was speechless. And then? What happened next? "I'll tell you the rest tomorrow." "Promise? I promise." And he did tell her. The next day he invented the rest. And the day after, another story. And the day after that, always different stories, always about snow, about ice, about a magical winter, about icy adventures. Emily loved every single one. She was mesmerized. Sometimes other customers at the coffee shop stopped to listen too. Sarah, from the counter, listened as she worked and caught herself smiling. The fourth tradition was the inside jokes. It started accidentally. Ethan tried to tell a joke about a penguin walking into a bar, but he messed up the whole joke. He mixed up the ending with a completely different joke. It made absolutely no sense. Emily laughed so hard she almost fell out of her chair. She laughed and laughed, holding her stomach. "That doesn't make any sense," she said between loud laughs. "Penguins don't wear hats." "I know," Ethan admitted, laughing too. "I completely ruined it. It was the worst joke ever. It really was. From then on, it became a joke between them. Whenever something didn't make sense, one of them would say, 'That's just like the penguin joke.' And they both would burst out laughing. There were other jokes too. Silly, childish, unfunny to anyone else. But they were theirs, only theirs, and that made them special. Sarah saw all this happening, day after day, week after week. And little by little, something in her changed. At first, she watched with fear, with constant suspicion, always expecting Ethan to disappear, always expecting him to show his true colors, always expecting things to go wrong. Because in her experience, things always went wrong. But Ethan didn't disappear. He kept coming back, every day, without fail, with patience, with affection, with a sincerity that didn't seem fake. And Sarah began to relax. Slowly, very slowly. But she started. She started smiling when Ethan walked in. She started participating in the conversations instead of just watching. She started trusting just a little bit, but it was something. It was slow, natural, nothing forced, nothing rushed. One day, while wiping the counter with the damp cloth, she looked over at the table where Ethan and Emily were drawing together. Emily was laughing. Laughing that free, happy, carefree laugh that children laugh when they are truly happy. Sarah hadn't seen her daughter laugh like that in a long time, months maybe, and she realized something simple but profound. Emily was happy, truly happy, because of Ethan. That night, at home, in the cold apartment with peeling walls, Emily talked about him the whole time while they ate simple rice. Ethan said he's going to tell the story of the Snow Queen tomorrow. He said she lives in an ice castle. Ethan drew a cat today that looked like a potato, Mommy. It was so funny. Ethan is really nice. Sarah just listened and smiled. Because seeing Emily happy was all she wanted in the world. Ethan was changing too. He woke up every day thinking about 3:30, thinking about the small coffee shop on the corner, thinking about Emily, about the stories he would tell, about the drawings they would make, about the laughs they would share. His days had purpose again. Before, everything was empty. Work, home, loneliness, repeat, a colorless cycle. Now he had something to look forward to, someone to see, laughs to share, life to live. Emily lit up his days in a way he hadn't expected. He hadn't planned it. It just happened. He felt less alone. For the first time in years, the loneliness had lessened. One day he realized he was smiling on the way to the coffee shop, smiling to himself, walking down the snowy street like a fool. People looked. He didn't care. At work, he was lighter, more patient with employees, more creative in meetings. Even his assistant, Marcus, commented, "You're different lately, boss, happier. Did something good happen?" Ethan just smiled. "I think so. I think it did." Weeks turned into a month, then 2. The trust between them grew. Slowly, naturally, sincerely. Sarah started telling Ethan things, small things at first, about work, about how some customers were rude, about Emily and school, about how hard it was sometimes to do everything alone. Ethan listened, truly listened. He never judged. He never gave unrequested advice. He just listened with genuine attention. Emily started hugging Ethan when he arrived. Every day she would run and jump into his arms. She started saving special drawings to show only to him. She started asking about his life too. "Do you have family, Ethan?" "Not anymore. My parents have passed away. And siblings." "I don't have any." "So you're all alone?" Ethan was quiet for a second. "I was, but now I have you too." Emily smiled, that big, sincere smile. "That's true. Now you have us. We're your family now." Ethan felt something tighten in his chest, but it was good. It was warm. "You are indeed," he quietly agreed. It was one early March afternoon that something special happened. Ethan walked into the coffee shop at the usual time, but he was different. He looked nervous, excited. His hands were in his pockets, fidgeting with something. Emily ran to him as always. Alice, her rag doll, tucked under her arm. She took Alice everywhere now. "Ethan, look at the drawing I made today. It's you and me and Alice." "Beautiful," he said, but he was distracted. "Emily, I brought you something." He took a small package out of his coat pocket, wrapped in simple brown paper, tied with a white string. Emily looked at the package, then at him. Her eyes widened. "For me. For you." Sarah was coming from the counter with a tray. She stopped halfway. She watched. Emily took the package carefully, as if it were something extremely precious. She slowly untied the string. She gently opened the paper, trying not to tear it. Inside, a small doll. It was handmade. Made of cloth. Simple but beautiful. It had light yellow yarn hair, blue painted eyes, a light blue dress with small white flowers hand-embroidered, delicate. Perfect. Emily stood completely still, looking at the doll, her eyes filled with tears. Is this really for me?" "It is," Ethan said softly, kneeling down to her height. "Then I saw it in a craft store and thought of you. I thought you would like it." Emily hugged the doll tightly against her chest. Then, without warning, she jumped into Ethan's lap. He held her, surprised but happy. Emily buried her face in his neck. When she spoke and her voice was choked, filled with pure emotion, You are such a kind man. My new friend. Ethan closed his eyes. He hugged her tightly. He felt something warm and tight rise in his throat. He felt his eyes sting. He didn't cry, but he almost did. Very close. It had been so long since anyone had called him kind, so long since anyone had hugged him that way, with true love, pure, without wanting anything in return, without ulterior motives. "So thank you, Emily," he whispered, his voice hoarse. "Thank you for being my friend." Sarah was standing a few feet away. She saw everything. She saw the gift. She saw Emily jumping into his lap. She saw the tight hug. She saw the emotion on Ethan's face, and she saw something that touched her deeply. Pure emotion. True. Vulnerable. She brought her hand to her mouth. She felt the tears wanting to fall. She held them back hard, but she barely managed. One slipped out. It was gratitude. Pure gratitude. Without embarrassment. Without shame. With nothing but sincere recognition. Ethan had given her daughter something precious. Not just the doll, but attention, affection, time, true friendship, constant presence. Things that money couldn't buy. Rare things. Sarah slowly approached. She put her hand on Ethan's shoulder. He looked at her, his eyes shining. "Thank you," she said, her voice trembling. "Thank you so much for everything." Ethan shook his head. "You don't need to thank me. It was a pleasure." "I do need to. You've been so good to us." "So very good." Emily pulled away from the hug and showed the doll to her mother, radiant. "Look, Mommy. Look how beautiful. She has a blue dress." Sarah smiled, quickly wiping her eyes. "She is beautiful, my love. Very beautiful. I'm going to name her Alice, just like my other doll." Alice is a perfect name. Emily hugged the two dolls together. Then she hugged Ethan again, tightly. "Thank you, Ethan. I'm going to take very good care of her, very good care, I promise." "I know you will. You are very careful." That afternoon, Emily didn't let go of the new doll for a second. She drew with her in her lap. She drank hot chocolate with her next to her. She told the doll the stories Ethan told. She introduced her to the other customers. Sarah watched everything from the counter, and for the first time in a long time, she felt something different growing in her chest. Hope. Real hope, that maybe things could be better, that maybe not everything was struggle and suffering, that maybe there were genuinely good people in the world, and Ethan was one of them. When he left that afternoon, Emily hugged him tightly at the door. "See you tomorrow, Ethan. You're coming back, right?" "I am, every day." "Promise." "I promise." Sarah walked him to the exit. Outside, on the snowy sidewalk, she stopped. "Ethan?" He turned. "Yes. You don't need to bring gifts. Just you coming is more than enough." Ethan gave that small, gentle smile. "I know, but I wanted to. She deserves it." Sarah nodded. She bit her lip. She took a deep breath. "Just don't suddenly disappear, please. She's gotten very attached to you." "I won't disappear," he promised, holding her gaze. "I promise. Truly." And Sarah believed him. For the first time, she completely believed him. She went back inside the coffee shop. Emily was showing the new doll to Martha, talking non-stop. Sarah smiled. The bond had grown between Ethan and Emily, between Ethan and her too, slowly, naturally, sincerely, real. And for the first time in a long time, Sarah wasn't afraid. She was grateful. And that, in that moment, was more than enough. Sarah climbed the apartment building stairs with Emily. It was late afternoon. It had been a long day at the coffee shop. Her feet hurt, her back too. Emily climbed the steps slowly, dragging her backpack. She held both Alice dolls under her arm. "Mommy, can I watch cartoons when we get home?" "You can, my love." They reached the third-floor hallway. Sarah searched her bag for the key, but when she looked at the door, she froze. There was a white envelope taped there. Large. Official. Her heart raced. She knew what it was even before picking it up. With a trembling hand, she pulled the envelope off the door. She unlocked the door. She gently pushed Emily inside. "Go wash your hands, my love. I'll make dinner soon." Emily went in, dropped her backpack, and went to the bathroom. Sarah closed the door. She leaned against it. She opened the envelope. The bold letters seemed to scream eviction notice. She read it, reread it. The words blurred. 3 months of overdue rent. Final deadline. 30 days to vacate the property. Legal action pending. Sarah slid down the door until she was sitting on the cold floor. The paper shook in her hand. 30 days. 30 days to leave. To find another place. To find money she didn't have. She put her hands to her face. She tried to breathe. She couldn't do it properly. Mommy. Sarah quickly raised her head. Emily was standing in the bathroom doorway, wiping her hands on her shirt. Yes, my love. Are you okay? Sarah quickly folded the paper and put it in her pocket. She forced a smile. I am. Just tired. I'm going to make dinner. She stood up. She went to the kitchen. She prepared rice and an egg. Her hands trembled as she stirred the pot. Emily sat at the small kitchen table and turned on the little TV. She watched cartoons while they ate dinner. Sarah barely touched her food. Every bite went down like a stone. After dinner, she gave Emily a bath, put her old pajamas on her, laid her in bed. Good night, my love. Good night, Mommy. Sarah kissed her forehead. She waited until Emily fell asleep. Then she went back to the living room. She sat on the cold couch. She took the paper out of her pocket, read it again. 30 days. She started calculating in her head. Overdue rent, $2,100, plus the current month's rent, $2,800 in total. She didn't have even half of that. The coffee shop's salary barely covered food and basic bills. Nothing was left over. Never. She thought about borrowing money. But from whom? She had no family. She had no close friends. She had been isolated since Emily was born. She thought about asking for an advance at the coffee shop, but she had already asked 2 months ago. Martha wouldn't be able to give her another one. She thought about looking for another job, but who would hire her that quickly? And who would watch Emily while she worked? Hours passed. Sarah stayed awake on the couch, looking at the cracked ceiling, trying to find a way out. She didn't find one. When the sun started to rise, she was still there. Red eyes, aching head, tight chest. Emily woke up and found her mother in the same spot. Mommy, didn't you sleep? I did, my love. I just woke up early. But Emily saw the dark circles under her eyes. She saw the exhaustion. She didn't say anything. At the coffee shop, Sarah was different, downcast, quiet. Deep dark circles marked her face. Her blonde hair was tied up haphazardly. Her hands trembled when she prepared the coffees. She dropped a cup. It broke. She apologized 3 times to Martha while cleaning it up. Are you okay, honey? The owner asked, worried. I am. Just didn't sleep well. But she wasn't okay. And everyone noticed. Emily felt it too. She was quiet at her little table. She didn't draw. She didn't play. She just sat there, hugging her dolls, watching her mother with concern. 3:30 in the afternoon arrived. The coffee shop door opened. Ethan walked in. Emily looked up, but she didn't run to him as she always did. She stayed put, watching. Ethan immediately noticed something was off. He looked at Emily, then at Sarah at the counter. She was turned away, washing cups. Her shoulders slumped. Her posture was tired. Something was wrong. Ethan walked over to Emily's table and sat down. Hi, Emily. How are you? Hi, Ethan. Her voice was quiet, without enthusiasm. Aren't you going to show me any drawings today? Emily shook her head. I didn't draw today. Ethan frowned. Emily always drew. Every day. Why? She shrugged, hugged her dolls tighter. Ethan looked at Sarah again. She brought his coffee. She put it on the table without looking him in the eye. Thank you, he said. You're welcome. Her voice was flat, lifeless. Sarah quickly went back to the counter. She kept working, but her hands were trembling. She wiped the same table 3 times. Ethan watched, worried, confused. Emily tugged at his coat sleeve. He leaned down. Yes. She looked at her mother, then back at Ethan. She whispered very softly, My mum is very sad. Ethan felt something tighten in his chest. How is she sad? She didn't sleep yesterday. She stayed up all night on the couch, and today she's quiet. She won't really talk to me. Emily had tears in her eyes. I don't know what to do, Ethan. I'm scared. Ethan put his hand on her shoulder with affection. Scared of what? I don't know. I'm just scared. He looked at Sarah again. She was standing at the sink, her hands resting on the edge, her head bowed, taking deep breaths as if trying to control herself. Ethan understood. Something serious was going on, very serious, and Sarah was carrying it alone, as she always carried everything. I'll talk to your mom, okay? Ethan said softly. Emily nodded, wiping her eyes. Okay. Ethan stayed there for another hour. He tried to talk to Emily. He told a short story. He tried to make her laugh. He managed to get a small smile, but she was still worried. Sarah didn't approach. She stayed at the counter the whole time, avoiding looking at them. When Ethan got up to leave, he stopped near the counter. Sarah, she turned. Her eyes were red, swollen. Yes. Can I talk to you just for a minute? Sarah looked at the clock, at the movement in the coffee shop, at her own feet. Not now, I'm busy. She wasn't busy. The coffee shop was empty. But Ethan didn't insist. He just nodded. All right, tomorrow then. He left, but the worry didn't. Sarah leaned against the counter. She closed her eyes. She felt the tears coming again. 30 days. The clock was ticking and she had nowhere to go. The coffee shop was closing. Martha had already left. The last customers had gone 20 minutes ago. The chairs were turned upside down on the tables. The floor was swept. The streetlights outside were beginning to turn on. Sarah was wiping the counter for the 5th time. Her hands moved on autopilot. Wipe the cloth, rinse, wring, repeat. Emily was sitting at her usual small table, finally drawing. But the drawing was sad. Dark clouds, rain, a tiny house. The coffee shop door opened. Sarah turned her head. Ethan walked in. I'm sorry, we're closed, she said automatically. I know. I came to talk to you. Sarah stopped. She looked at him. Ethan was serious, worried. There's nothing to talk about. Yes, there is. He walked up to the counter. Sarah, please, just give me 5 minutes. She hesitated. She looked at Emily. The girl was looking too, hopefully. Sarah sighed. She put the cloth down in the sink. 5 minutes. Ethan nodded. He looked at Emily. Emily, can you draw for a little longer? I need to talk to your mum. Okay. Sarah walked around the counter. She sat at one of the tables. Ethan sat across from her. The silence was heavy for a few seconds. What's going on? Ethan asked gently. His voice was soft, without pressure. Can I help? Sarah looked at her hands. She interlaced her fingers. She squeezed hard. It's none of your business. I know, but I care. Why? She looked up. There was exhaustion there and desperation. Why do you care? We're nothing to you. Yes, you are. Ethan held her gaze. You're important to me. Sarah shook her head. The tears started to rise. She tried to hold them back. She couldn't. I can't accept help. I've always managed on my own, always. I know. And you are strong. Very strong. But you don't have to face everything alone. The words broke something inside her. Sarah broke down. She covered her face with her hands and began to sob. It wasn't delicate crying. It was strong, desperate sobbing, accumulated over days, weeks, months. Ethan got up and sat next to her. He put his hand on her back, gently. It's okay. Breathe. Sarah tried. Between sobs, she tried to breathe. After a minute, she managed to speak. I received an eviction notice. Ethan stayed quiet, just listening. 3 months of overdue rent. I have 30 days to leave. She wiped her face with trembling hands. I don't have the money. I have nowhere to go. I have no one. She took the crumpled paper out of her apron pocket and put it on the table. Ethan picked it up. He read it in silence. It's almost $3,000 in total, Sarah continued, her voice breaking. Overdue rent, penalty, everything. I don't have it, not even close. What about the other bills? Sarah gave a bitter laugh. Overdue, all of them. Water, electricity, gas, everything is late. She rubbed her face. I swear I try, but the money is never enough. Never. The salary here isn't enough. It barely pays for food. She looked at him, her eyes red, swollen. You saw what we eat. Rice, egg, pasta. It's what I can afford. And even then, sometimes it's not enough. Ethan felt something tighten in his chest. Why didn't you ask for help before? Who would I ask? Sarah almost yelled, then lowered her voice, remembering Emily. Who am I going to ask? I have no one. My parents kicked me out when I got pregnant. I have no siblings. I have no friends. It's just me and Emily. It's always just been us. And her father. Sarah gave another bitter laugh. He disappeared when he found out I was pregnant. I never saw him again. He never helped. Nothing. She rested her elbows on the table and held her head in her hands. I'm so ashamed, Ethan. So ashamed that I can't manage, that I'm not enough, that I can't give my daughter a better life. You are doing the best you can. But it's not enough. She hit the table with her hand, frustrated. It's not enough. She deserves more. She deserves a warm home, real food, new clothes, toys, and I can't give her any of that. The tears fell again. And now I'm going to lose our home, and I don't know what to do. I don't know where to go. I'm afraid we'll end up on the street. I'm afraid they'll take Emily away from me. Ethan stayed quiet, absorbing everything. Then he said softly, You don't have to face this alone. But I always have faced it alone. Always. Not anymore. Sarah looked at him. There was something in Ethan's gaze. Determination, sincerity. What are you going to do? She asked, exhausted. There's nothing to be done. Yes, there is. He picked up the paper from the table. Leave it with me. Ethan, don't. Leave it with me, he repeated firmly. Please, trust me. Sarah wanted to argue. She wanted to refuse, but she was too exhausted, too defeated. She just nodded. Emily appeared next to the table, holding her dolls. Mommy, are you okay? Sarah quickly wiped her face. She forced a smile. I am, my love. Emily didn't believe her, but she didn't insist. She just hugged her mother. Sarah held her tightly, as if she were the only solid thing in the world. The next morning, Sarah arrived at the coffee shop tired. She had slept poorly. Nightmares about eviction, about losing Emily, about being on the street. She was preparing the first coffee of the day when the door opened. Ethan walked in. Earlier than usual. It was only 8 in the morning. Ethan, what are you doing here? He walked up to the counter. There was something on his face. Relief. Satisfaction. I spoke with your building's administrator. Sarah froze. What? The eviction has been cancelled. The world stopped. Sarah blinked, then blinked again. What do you mean, cancelled? I paid the 3 overdue months, plus the next 3, to give you some breathing room. Sarah dropped the cup she was holding. It almost fell. She caught it at the last second. You did what? I paid the rent. 6 months in total. You are not going to be evicted. Sarah's legs gave out. She held onto the counter not to fall. Ethan, that's thousands of dollars. I know. You can't. I can't accept this. It's done. He spoke calmly, with certainty. You won't lose your home. Emily won't lose her home. Sarah began to cry. It wasn't sad crying, it was relief. Pure, overwhelming relief. She covered her mouth with her hands. Her shoulders trembled. I don't know what to say. You don't have to say anything. I'll pay you back, I promise, I will. You don't need to. Ethan shook his head. I don't want you to pay me back. I want you and Emily to be okay, that's all. Sarah couldn't stop crying. It was relief, it was gratitude, it was disbelief. It was everything all at once. Martha came out of the kitchen, saw the scene, and understood that something important was happening. She stayed quiet, just watching. Sarah took a deep breath. She tried to control herself. She wiped her face with her hands. Why are you doing this? Because you are important to me. But you don't even know me well. Ethan smiled gently. I know enough. Sarah was quiet for a moment. Then she took a deep breath. There was something she needed to tell him, something she had never told anyone. I need to tell you something. Ethan waited. Sarah pulled up a chair and sat down. He sat across from her. She looked at her hands. She gathered her courage. She began. I almost lost Emily when she was 2 years old. Ethan was completely quiet. I had a job at a store. It didn't pay well, but it was something. Until the store closed. Suddenly, without warning. She swallowed hard. I ran out of money. Couldn't pay rent. I was evicted. The tears returned. I had nowhere to go, so Emily and we slept in shelters. She was just a baby, 2 years old, and we slept in shelters. Her voice broke. The social workers started showing up. They said I wasn't fit to care for her, that she needed a stable home. They wanted to take her away from me. Ethan felt his chest tighten hard. I begged them not to take my daughter. I got a job, any job. I saved money. I rented this terrible apartment, but it was something. It was a roof over our heads. Sarah looked at Ethan, tears streaming down her face. They let me keep her, but they told me they would be watching. That if I lost the house again, they would take her from me. Sarah, since then, I've lived in fear. Fear of losing my job, fear of not paying rent, fear of losing my daughter. She wiped her tears angrily. That's why I didn't ask for help. That's why I'm so afraid, because if I fail, I lose everything. I lose her. Ethan was profoundly shaken. Now he understood everything. Her strength, the fear in her eyes, the refusal to accept help, the burden she carried alone. He leaned forward and took her hands. You won't lose her. I won't let you. You can't promise that. Yes, I can. He held firm. And I'll do more. I want to offer you a job. Sarah blinked, confused. What? Work for me, at my company. It's an investment firm. I need someone to organize files, answer the phone, manage the schedule, things like that. Ethan, I don't have experience with that. I'll teach you. It's not hard. He spoke seriously. Salary of $2,500 a month, hours from 9 to 4, so you can pick Emily up from school, paid vacation, benefits. Sarah was speechless. Is this serious? Completely serious. I can't accept. It's charity. It's not charity. Ethan held her gaze. It's recognition. Recognition of your strength, your dedication. You deserve a chance, and I'm giving you that chance. Sarah covered her mouth. She cried again. I don't know what to say. Say yes. She looked at him. She saw sincerity. She saw determination. She saw someone who truly cared. Yes, she whispered. Yes. Ethan smiled, a big, genuine smile. You start Monday. At that moment, the coffee shop door opened. Emily ran in. She had gotten out of school early today. A neighbor had brought her. Mommy, Ethan, she ran toward them. She saw her mother crying and stopped, scared. Mommy, why are you crying? Sarah opened her arms. Emily jumped into her lap. They are good tears, my love, very good tears. Emily looked at Ethan, then back at her mother, then at Ethan again. And then, as if she knew exactly what had happened, she let go of her mother and hugged Ethan tightly, hard. I knew you would take care of us, she said in his ear. I knew it. Ethan closed his eyes. He hugged her back. He felt something complete inside him. He already loved them both, like family, as if they had always been his, and in that moment, he knew he would never leave them alone again. Sarah watched, crying and smiling at the same time. For the first time in years, she wasn't alone. For the first time, she had someone by her side, and that changed everything. Monday morning, 9 o'clock sharp. Sarah stopped in front of the glass and steel building, tall, modern, imposing. It reflected the grey morning sky in its mirrored windows. She held her purse tightly. She wore the most presentable clothes she had, simple black pants, a white blouse that she had ironed 3 times the night before, old but clean and polished shoes. She had stayed up all night, nervous, mentally rehearsing what it would be like. She took a deep breath. The cold air filled her lungs. She pushed open the revolving door. The lobby was huge, shiny marble floor, high ceiling with modern chandeliers. People in suits rushed past. talking on their phones, carrying leather briefcases. Sarah felt tiny, out of place. "Sarah!" She turned her head quickly. Ethan was coming down the hallway, smiling broadly. He wore grey dress pants and a light blue shirt, no tie, the sleeves rolled up to his elbows, casual yet elegant. "Glad you came," he said, coming closer. His eyes sparkled. "I did." She tried to smile, but her hands were shaking. "I'm very nervous." "You don't need to be. Everything will be fine. I promise." He gently guided her to the elevator. His arm almost touched hers. Sarah felt the warmth. They rode up to the 8th floor in silence. Soft music played. The doors opened onto a large, bright office, organized desks with computers, plants in the corners, huge windows showing the entire city below. "This is it," Ethan said, his voice soft. "Come on, I'll show you everything." He introduced the employees one by one, Marcus and the assistant, Jennifer from accounting, Thomas from the legal department. Everyone was friendly. Some were curious about who the new woman was that the boss had personally hired. Then he led Sarah to a desk near his, organized, clean, with a new computer still in the protective plastic wrap on the screen. "This is your desk." Sarah touched the chair carefully. It was comfortable, ergonomic. Everything was new, clean, professional. So different from the cramped coffee shop. "Ethan, it's too much. It's your space. Make yourself at home. You can personalize it however you like." He pulled up a chair and sat right next to her, so close that she could smell his cologne, woody, soft. "I'll teach you everything slowly. Take your time, and you can ask 1,000 times if you need to. It's no problem." And he taught her. He showed her how the digital filing system worked, how to answer the phone with the correct extension, how to transfer calls, how to organize his calendar on the computer, how to take notes from meetings. He explained with infinite patience. When she made a mistake, and she made several, he just smiled and showed her again. No irritation, no rush, no judgment. "See, you're getting the hang of it. It's simpler than it looks." Sarah was focused on the screen, typing slowly, carefully, her tongue sticking out as she tried to remember the commands, exactly like Emily did when she was drawing. Ethan smiled when he noticed the resemblance, mother and daughter, so alike. The hours flew by. Sarah was so focused that she lost track of time. When she finally looked at the wall clock, it was already 1 in the afternoon. "I'm going to get lunch for us," Ethan said, standing up. "Do you like sandwiches?" "I do, but I brought a packed lunch. Let me pay today, first day, it's tradition." He winked and left before she could protest. He returned 20 minutes later with wrapped sandwiches, fries and 2 large coffees. They ate together at her desk, talking about how the morning had gone. "It's not as hard as I thought," Sarah admitted between bites. "I thought I would mess everything up. I told you, you're smart. You learn fast, faster than many people who have worked here." She smiled. A true smile, one that lit up her face. Ethan realized he loved seeing that smile. The following days were similar, but each one brought something new. Sarah arrived at 9 sharp. Ethan trained her in new functions. She learned. She made small mistakes. He corrected her with patience and good humor. She improved every day. On the 3rd day, she answered all the morning calls by herself. On the 5th day, she organized the entire week's schedule without help. On the 10th day, Marcus commented, "You adapted quickly, better than the last 3 people who were here." Sarah felt proud, a forgotten feeling, and little by little, something changed between her and Ethan. Their glances started lingering longer. Ethan would explain something on the computer screen. He would point with his finger. She would turn her head to ask a question. Their eyes would meet, and they would stay there, for 1 second too long, then 2, then 3. She would look away first. Always. Her face would feel warm. But in the following days, she started holding his gaze a little longer. Smiles came more and more easily. A silly joke from Marcus, a funny mistake in the system. Anything became a reason to smile, and the smiles lingered. They brightened the whole day. Sarah realized she looked forward to the mornings. She looked forward to arriving at the office. She looked forward to seeing Ethan at the reception. She looked forward to working next to him. Ethan realized his favorite part of the day was when she arrived at 9, when she smiled at him, when she asked for his help just so he would stay close. And he would invent excuses to go to her desk. "I need you to look at this document. Let's review the schedule together. Are you sure the phone is working right?" Neither of them spoke about it openly, but they both felt it, and they both knew the other felt it too. It was on a Friday, late afternoon, 3 weeks after Sarah started, that something truly changed. The office was empty. Everyone had left early because of the holiday the next day. Sarah was finishing organizing some printed files. Ethan was at his desk, reviewing documents, but actually watching her work. The way she bit her lower lip when she concentrated, how she tucked a strand of hair behind her ear, how she quietly murmured to herself as she organized. Sarah stood up, grabbed her person coat. "I'm heading out. I need to pick up Emily from school." Ethan stood up immediately. "I'll go down with you." They went down together. The elevator was slow. Soft instrumental music played. The silence was comfortable, natural. Outside, the afternoon was cold, a biting wind. The sun was setting early, tinging the sky with intense orange and light pink. The snow had stopped falling in the morning, but the ground was still white and crunchy. Sarah pulled her coat closer to her body and crossed her arms. "It's so cold," she murmured, her teeth almost chattering. Ethan took the grey wool scarf from his own neck and wrapped it around hers. Carefully, gently. "Here, you're going to freeze." "Ethan, you don't need to. What about you?" "I can handle it. I'm stubborn." Sarah touched the scarf. It was still warm, soft. It smelled like him. Woody cologne mixed with something that was only his. They stood there on the wide sidewalk. People hurried past, puffing vapor. Cars honked, buses rumbled by. But they were in a world of their own, in a silent bubble. Ethan looked at her face flushed from the cold, at her light eyes shining under the orange light of dusk, at her blonde hair loose on her shoulders, blowing in the wind, and he couldn't hold back. He took her hand. Sarah looked down at his large hand holding hers, then she looked up at his face. "Sarah," she waited, her heart beating too fast, too hard. "You two brought color into my life." His voice was low, sincere, vulnerable in a way she had never seen. "Before you, everything was empty, gray. I just existed, woke up, worked, went back to an empty house, slept alone, woke up and repeated it all over again. It had no meaning, no purpose." He squeezed her hand gently, as if holding something precious. "And then you appeared, in that market, that Christmas Eve, and suddenly I had a reason to wake up, a reason to truly smile, a reason to live instead of just exist." Sarah felt the tears rising, warm, inevitable. "You gave me something I didn't even know I had lost," Ethan continued, his voice hoarse with emotion. "You gave me a family. You gave me hope. You made me feel alive again." She couldn't hold it in. A tear slipped down her cold face. "Ethan, I know it's early. I know you're afraid. I know you've been hurt. But I need you to know." He held her hand with both his hands now. "I care about you a lot, more than I should in such a short time. And about Emily, you two you're everything to me now." Sarah closed her eyes. She took a deep breath. The cold air burned. When she opened her eyes, there were tears in them too. "I'm afraid," she admitted, her voice trembling. "I'm very afraid, Ethan, of trusting again, of getting attached, of believing, of you leaving when you realize I'm not worth it. You are worth everything, and I won't leave. Everyone leaves. Everyone has always left. My parents, Emily's father, everyone. I'm not everyone." He let go of one of her hands and gently touched her face. His thumb wiped away a tear. "I'm not going anywhere, I promise. Even if you ask me to, even if you try to push me away, I will stay." Sarah looked deeply into his eyes. She searched for lies. She searched for doubt. She searched for hesitation. She found none of it. She only found truth. Pure. Crystal clear. "I feel it too," she whispered, so low he almost didn't hear. "I care too. A lot. Too much, maybe." Ethan smiled, that smile that lit up his whole face, that reached his eyes. "Really? Really, I'm scared. But I also feel peace when you're near. Real peace. And I haven't felt peace in a long, long time." He pulled her into a hug. Sarah rested her face on his chest. She felt his heart beating fast and hard. She felt the warmth through his coat. She felt security. They stayed like that for more than a minute. People walked past and looked. They didn't care. When they let go, both were smiling, wet smiles. "True. Come have dinner with me tonight," Ethan asked, still holding her hand. "You and Emily. At my house, I'll make lasagna." Sarah nodded, wiping her face. "We'll be there." Dinner became a habit, 2-3 times a week, sometimes at Ethan's spacious house. Sometimes he would bring food to their small apartment. They were simple dinners, nothing extravagant, no expensive restaurants, homemade pasta, roast chicken with potatoes, warm soups, colorful salads, homemade things that filled the stomach and warmed the heart. But they were special, because they were together, because they were theirs. Ethan and Sarah cooked side by side. She carefully chopped vegetables. He seasoned the meat with spices. She stirred the tomato sauce. He set the table nicely. They talked while they worked. About the day at the office, about Emily and school, about small things that weren't small. About forgotten dreams, about hidden fears, about emerging hopes. Emily stayed in the living room, drawing or watching television, but always nearby, always included, always happy. After dinner, they would watch children's movies. Emily chose, she always chose, and she always chose the same ones. Cartoons she had seen 10 times, princess movies with happy endings, silly adventures with talking animals. Ethan and Sarah sat on the couch, Emily in the middle, warm, safe, the 2 Alice dolls always by her side. Sometimes Emily would fall asleep before the movie ended. Her head would tilt to the side. Her breathing would become heavy. Ethan would carry her carefully when they were at their apartment, or to the guest room specially prepared for her when they were at his house. Sarah would cover her daughter affectionately. She would kiss her forehead. She would softly murmur, "I love you." And when they returned to the living room, the atmosphere was different, more intimate, quieter, more adult. They talked softly about everything, about nothing, about life, about the past, about the possible future. Sometimes Ethan would hold her hand. Sometimes she would rest her head on his shoulder. Sometimes they would just sit in comfortable silence. Nothing rushed, nothing forced, nothing unnatural. Just natural, just right. Emily drew the 3 of them constantly. Always the 3 of them together, never apart. In one drawing, they were in a park with green trees. In another, in the kitchen making a cake. In another, on the couch watching a movie. In another, in the snow making a snowman. She would show them to Ethan and Sarah proudly every time. "Look, it's us. We're together." And it was them. A family forming. Slowly. Naturally. Without rush. Laughter began to fill the empty spaces. Small laughs. Silly. Frequent. Over insignificant things. Ethan burning the toast. Sarah messing up the lyrics to a song on the radio. Emily telling nonsensical jokes that only she understood, but they were genuine laughs. Joyful, light, free. The spaces that were once empty, in Ethan's large house, in their small apartment, in everyone's wounded hearts, were being filled with true affection, with constant presence, with real life. Sarah gained confidence every day. At work, she no longer needed constant help. She answered phones with confidence and professionalism. She organized files without asking. She made small decisions alone. She offered suggestions in meetings. Ethan always complimented her sincerely. "You're doing so well. Better than many experienced employees who have worked here. You have a knack for this." And she believed him. For the first time in her life, she believed in herself. She believed she could be more than just a waitress, that she could grow. that she could build something. At home she was different too, lighter on her shoulders. She smiled more and cried less. She worried less about money. She still had bills. She still had difficulties, but now she had stability. She had a decent salary. She had breathing room, and she had Ethan. Ethan was truly attached. It wasn't just sympathy anymore. It wasn't just friendship. It wasn't just compassion. It was love. True love. He loved Sarah. The way she was strong yet vulnerable at the same time. How she cared for Emily with absolute devotion. How she smiled when she thought no one was looking. How she laughed when she let loose. How she looked at him sometimes as if she couldn't believe he was real. And he loved Emily. Her pure innocence, her free laughter, her colorful drawings. The way she hugged him without fear, without reservation, with total love. They had become the center of his life, the sun around which everything else orbited. He didn't feel lonely anymore. He didn't feel empty anymore. He no longer woke up without purpose. He felt complete for the first time in years. Emily felt safe and loved. For the first time in her life, she had a constant male figure, someone who showed up every day without fail, who genuinely played, who listened to her silly stories, who cared about her drawings. She called Ethan by his name, never Dad, but the way she looked at him was the way one sees real family. "Ethan, come see my new drawing. Ethan, tell the story of the Ice Queen again. Ethan, can I sit on your lap?" And he always said yes. On a full moon night, while Emily slept soundly on the couch between them, covered with a soft blanket, Sarah looked at Ethan. "Thank you," she said quietly, almost a whisper. "What for?" "For everything. For staying when you could have left. For caring when you could have ignored us. For giving us a chance when you didn't have to." Ethan took her hand over Emily's sleeping head. "I thank you. You saved me as much as I saved you, maybe more." Sarah squeezed his hand affectionately. "I'm still afraid sometimes of waking up and you being gone. Of all this being a dream. I know it's normal, but I'm trying to trust, really, a little more every day. That's all I ask. It doesn't have to be perfect. You just have to try." They stayed like that, hands intertwined over Emily, the silence comfortable like a blanket. And in that moment, the three of them were a family, not on paper, not officially, without rings or contracts, but in their hearts, in the place where it truly mattered. Sarah was no longer alone, carrying the world. Ethan was no longer an empty wanderer. Emily was no longer afraid of tomorrow. The days continued like this. Weeks turned into months. February came, then March, and with each passing day, the bond grew stronger, deeper, more real. Love grew slowly, naturally, sincerely, without rush, and for the first time in a long time, all three had something precious. Hope. True hope that this could last, that this wasn't an illusion, that this was forever. And maybe it was. Maybe it really was. 1 year later, Christmas Eve again. Sarah looked out the apartment window. Snow fell softly outside. The streets sparkled with colorful lights. But this time she didn't feel a tightness in her chest. She didn't feel fear. She felt peace. "Mommy, look, I'm finished." Sarah turned. Emily was in the living room, admiring the decorations they had made together. Chains of colored paper crossed the ceiling, hand-cut stars taped to the walls, Christmas drawings everywhere. Nothing expensive, nothing from a fancy store, but it was beautiful because it was made with love. "It looks perfect, my love." Emily was 6 now, taller, longer blonde hair, but her light eyes still shone with the same innocence. The doorbell rang. Emily screamed with joy and ran to the door. Sarah followed her, smiling. Ethan was there, black coat covered in snow, holding a large box. "Merry Christmas!" Emily jumped on him. Ethan dropped the box and picked her up, laughing. He pulled Sarah in with his free arm. He hugged them both at the same time. It was a hug of 3, of family. "Come see, we decorated everything." Emily pulled him by the hand. Ethan looked around. The colored paper chains, the paper stars, the drawings on the walls. "It's beautiful, you are artists." He opened the box. Homemade Christmas cookies, stars, trees, snowmen, all decorated with colored frosting. I made them this morning. Emily took one and bit into it. It's delicious. They prepared dinner together, small turkey, mashed potatoes, roasted vegetables, simple salad. The table was pretty. Red tablecloth, candles lit. The three of them sat down. Ethan served Emily first, as always. They held hands. Thank you for the food, and for our family, and for Ethan. Amen, Emily said quickly. Sarah and Ethan laughed. Amen. Dinner was full of conversations, laughter, stories. A year ago, Sarah was desperate in a market with $20. Now she was here, with food, with warmth, with family. After dinner, they sat on the couch. Emily disappeared into the bedroom. She came back holding a folded piece of paper. Ethan, I made you a present. She handed it to him with both hands. Serious. Ethan carefully opened it. It was a drawing. 3 people holding hands. A blonde woman, a dark-haired man, a small girl between them. All smiling, colored hearts all around underneath, written in childish handwriting, for my family. Ethan was quiet. His eyes began to water. Did you like it? Emily asked anxiously. He cleared his throat. His voice came out rough. It's the most beautiful gift I've ever received. He put the drawing in his shirt pocket, close to his heart. Then he looked at Sarah. At Emily, back at Sarah. I never want to spend a Christmas away from you. Sarah felt her eyes sting. She took his hand and squeezed it. You won't. You are already part of us. Ethan pulled her closer. He kissed her forehead. Then he kissed Emily's head. You are my family forever. Emily snuggled between them. She picked up the 2 Alice dolls and hugged them. Her eyes began to droop. This was the best Christmas ever, she mumbled, sleepy. It was indeed, Sarah quietly agreed. Emily fell asleep right there, in Ethan's lap, soft breathing. Sarah leaned her head on his shoulder. The lights on the small tree twinkled in the corner, red, green, gold. Outside, the snow continued to fall. Inside the modest apartment, with peeling walls and old furniture, it was warm. The silence was one of peace, of completeness, of home. Sarah looked at Emily, sleeping, at Ethan holding her carefully, and she felt certainty. Certainty that she was where she was meant to be. Ethan looked at Sarah. Their eyes met. They didn't need to speak. Everything was there. In the silence, in the touch, in the moment, the family was complete. It wasn't perfect. It wasn't wealthy. It had no luxuries, but it had love. It had presence. It had commitment. It had everything that truly mattered. Ethan softly kissed Sarah's forehead. I love you, he whispered. It was the first time he had said it. Sarah felt her heart overflow. I love you too. It was the first time she had said it too, and it was true, profoundly true. The lights kept twinkling. Emily kept sleeping. The snow kept falling. And there, in that small apartment on a Christmas Eve, a family was complete. A family that began with $20 and an act of kindness. A family that grew with patience and time. A family solidified with true love. Sarah, Ethan, and Emily. Together. Finally. Forever. If this story touched your heart, subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next ones. Leave a like because it helps this story get recommended to more people. See you in the next story.